Hello, everybody. Lauren Golden here, founder of the Free Mama and the Free Mama movement. I am not 100% confident if we are live yet. I still have that awesome little redirecting bar. There we go. We're good.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say it says live on YouTube.
I know there's always that awkward delay though with streaming. But we're good. I can actually see us, which means I will also be able to watch the chat. We've already got a couple people who have jumped on, so I'm so excited you guys are here today. Yay! I know, I'm so excited. All right, this is the second interview we're doing. We're kind of calling this like a "Where Are They Now" sequence, if you will, over here on YouTube. And I'm really excited about it because, and Stephanie, I'm sure you will actually be able to talk to this because you were one of the original Free Mamas. So I don't know how I convinced you that this freelancing thing was a good idea, because when I first started, I didn't have a lot of social proof. Just like a lot of our moms, when they start freelancing, they're like, I don't have a resume, I don't have a portfolio or experience. You joined the Free Mama movement at that time, but we know, as kind of a society, like social proof's really important. Like for us to want to do something, we're kind of like, does it work? Right? And so it's really awesome to be able to do these Where Are They Now segments with you guys, because I want people to know what's possible for them. I want people to look at you and go, you know what? She is a mom like me, and she did this, followed this same crazy blonde lady on the internet and followed this advice and did this and did it her way. And if she can do it, I can do it. And just to celebrate your accomplishments. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce today's guest. We have the beautiful Stephanie Judice, who I adore. I have gotten to meet you in real life. You have ridden in my car.
That's right. Am I the only mama that's ridden in your car, maybe?
Jordan might have ridden.
Maybe. Okay.
Maybe someone else at one point. My own business coach rode in my car, and I was super embarrassed. She is a stepmom, but she is not a mom in the same capacity of young children that you birth.
Of having food and and everything else in your car,
Yes, so I was slightly mortified, but it's all good. I drive a very old SUV, in case anybody's wondering. So I was like, okay, Stephanie.
So fun. I was like, no, I'll totally just Uber. She's like, no, but take you home. I'm like, whatever. It's awesome.
Yes. So why don't you introduce yourself? I want to pass it right over onto you. Like, let's figure out, we'll learn all about where you're at now and what's next for you. But why don't you start by, a little bit about where you're from and your family, but why don't you set the tone with, where were you a year ago? Where were you before you discovered the Free Mama movement?
Yes. So I actually graduated with a marketing degree from LSU, ages ago, 12 years ago now. And so I did work in the marketing field for several years. And while I loved the work that I did, I had kind of that same thing that I know a lot of people have. I mean, I actually liked, all my coworkers liked my boss. It was great. But I kept the long commute, it was, I went to work at 7, I would get home at 6 or 7. And I mean, what I was giving to my husband, because I didn't have kids at the time, was everything that I had left. And that was, just little. I was tired, I was grumpy, like you had to hurry up and get ready and get your stuff ready for the next day. And I'm the kind of person that takes work home. So it was always on my mind. So that's where I kind of was. That must have been about 6 years ago. So around that time, I was working full time. And whenever I got pregnant and had my first, I have 2 little boys. Whenever I got pregnant and had my first, I think I was craving a little bit more. I was craving more time at home and that kind of a thing. I've always been interested in real estate. So I actually 6 years ago got my real estate license. So I have been and still am a realtor. And I have loved doing that. And I've loved all the people that I've met and the same kind of a thing. But I was still finding that a lot of my time was spent, when I wanted to be working was from 9 to 2 while my kids were at school. Well, that's when everybody else was at work and they wanted to see houses from, 5 to 8 at night and on weekends. So then it turned into, I wasn't working as many hours, but it was all of my family time was now spent doing that. So it was kind of around that time, I guess about a year ago. So my youngest, I have a 3-year-old, my youngest was a couple years old. And I think back to the time and I'm like, it's kind of weird how everything happened. And I'm like, how did I think to click on Lauren's ad? I'm pretty sure, Lauren, I don't know if I ever told you this. I'm pretty sure that the first ad I've ever clicked on Facebook was yours. Like, I always hear a lot of these these mamas saying they clicked on all this stuff and they thought it was, scam or whatever. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the only Facebook ad I've ever clicked on, I wasn't a huge Facebooker before. So anyways, I don't know how it happened. I was randomly scrolling one night and I saw Lauren's ad. I immediately jumped into the training, and right after that, I bought it. And I mean, it was probably one of the biggest whims that I've ever done. I mean, to spend that amount of money just on a whim. And really at the time, I had no idea what freelancing was. I mean, the only people that I knew that worked from home were people that had jobs that their employers let them work from home. So I really, at that point, did not know there was such a huge world of freelancing and online entrepreneurs. I didn't know any of this existed. So totally, it was kind of crazy. And I don't know that I ever thought it was a scam by any means, but I will say in the beginning, I always had those doubts of like, is this a real thing? Like, how am I going to really meet people that are really doing this and that kind of a thing? So that's kind of my journey. I started in January of 2018, so 1 year ago. And when I started, there were only a few of us in the movement when we first started. And I immediately jumped into Lauren's coaching. And actually, Lisa was in there, Mia, Jordan, all of those like original, the OGs. We have a Voxer set up. It's the OG mama, and we talk every day. So
yeah, it's true. That's actually really true. I just got to do a podcast recording earlier today, and I was saying, it's really fascinating because I set out to build this course that teaches moms how to make money from home. Like that's the point. It's why people sign up. It's why people join. But what I'm really proud of is it's turned into something so much more than that. I mean, there's a true community and there's genuine friendships, and it's beautiful. And I love that you were a part of that. Okay, so you hit on something. We're going to go back and we're going to talk about your specific journey over the years, because I made a little hint earlier today. I did a Facebook Live letting everybody know we would be doing this interview on YouTube. Well, you can go back and watch it. And I said I had an interesting dynamic with Stephanie, and where you were actually very hard for me to coach because it was like talking to a former version of myself. So we're very similar, the way we approach situations and kind of the way our brains tick. And so we'll get into that a little bit, but something I would love for you to talk a little bit more about in your own words from your realization that you just hinted at is like, you didn't know that this world existed. 13, 14 months later, like what world are you talking about? If there's someone watching right now who maybe they just found a free YouTube video from Free Mama TV and they are just now learning what freelancing or being a virtual assistant is, like, what have you uncovered is possible over the last year? I'd love to hear in your words.
Yes. I mean, literally when I started, I think back on it now, and yes, I was one of Lauren's hardest coaching, but I have come so far. So it's kind of funny. Like I'll go into how far I feel like I've come professionally and personally and everything. But yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I mean, as far as a website goes, I knew that you went to www. I mean, I was techie, but I guess I never realized, I had no idea how to build a website, how to do a website, anything. Now I do that for clients. It's crazy. And, looking back, I mean, I didn't even know I had no idea that you could actually buy a course online and take any kind of training online. I thought you went to college and took college classes, so I think it's just 100% opened me up into this huge world of all kinds of different businesses that are online now that you never think about. I mean, you always thought lawyers, they were at the office and that's where they worked. There's so many lawyers that do total online, contracts and everything for clients. I mean, just
there's one in the Free Mama community, actually. Her name's
really, I mean, it's just, it's crazy. And I now, even working with the people that I work with now, over all the different industries, seeing what they do, it's, I mean, dietitians, working online, and I work with some other clients that are, they do like sensory disorders in children, she's like an occupational therapist, I mean, never did I know that you could ever do that kind of stuff online. So it's just opened up this huge world of, I guess of opportunity, not only client wise, like clients that you can work with, but like also things that that I do that I didn't even know existed that now I'm doing, and just to see that like what I'm doing now and like what I'm going to do in the future, there's just so many different things you can do.
Cool. So let's talk about that. What are you doing now? How's your business?
Great. I started, and I was listening to Lisa's interview the other day, and she kind of said she was the Jill of all trades. I really, to tell you the truth, have been the Jill of all trades for a long, long time. I had just like what she did. I think, and I know that Lauren, you kind of have this problem too, is you kind of like a lot of different things. So I never had, I know that some of the mamas, I was almost jealous how they would come in and they knew from the get-go that they were working with this type of client, that they were doing this kind of work, and that's what they were going to do. I have had probably a year-long struggle with really niching down. I knew what I didn't like to do. I knew a few things that I enjoyed doing more. So to anyone who's, kind of just starting out on that journey, or even the mamas that have been on the journey for a long time and just haven't, hit the point where they feel like they've found their thing yet, just keep going. I mean, I feel like I'm just now kind of coming to that realization, and like everything that I've been doing in the last couple of months, like is just a 180 from where I was, even 4 months ago. So I, from the beginning, started out my original website. Lauren, you remember my website? It took me months to get my website, which I totally scratched and totally redid now. So don't. But yeah, whenever I started out, I did social media I thought I wanted to do social media management and blog management. Now those are two services that I do a little bit of social media for a client, but I pretty much don't offer those services. And what I've pretty much niched down to now is doing podcast management for clients. And then I do a lot of design work, like asset designs for course creators. So PDFs, slideshows, any of their stuff that they go putting into a course, not necessarily like developing their branding, but using the branding they already have and then making everything cohesive across, so that's kind of what I've niched down to now.
I am loving this because you provide services that you didn't even know existed. Mm-hmm. Like how casually you just said, I create digital assets for course creators. Oh. Like I know there is at least
even know they had
one person watching right now who's like, what's a course creator? Yes. A course creator would be someone like me, a business owner who creates some sort of educational training that can be found online. I have a course, it's online. There are workbooks and worksheets. And so what you're saying is you help entrepreneurs create those so that they don't have to do it on their own. That's a thing that people will pay you to do. I love this community and I love the Free Mama, and it excites me so much because you don't know what you don't know. We don't know what we don't know. You can
literally go into this rabbit hole of, I always thought design meant like you have to be a graphic designer, and I'm like, oh, I'm not a graphic designer. But then you go into it, and I mean, everything, there's some like form of design. I design sales pages like on websites that I didn't even know the back end for, 8 months ago. It's crazy. But, it's just been fun. It's been fun to like put everything kind of together and just to work with all the different people that I have and to see like their businesses grow and change. And so it's been fun.
That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you one more question, then we'll move on a little bit. Which came first? Did you go out and learn how to do these things, or did you find the clients and then met their needs? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did this kind of happen?
This question is going to be for the people who are like me. I am and probably like Lauren was. I'm a perfectionist, and I like to know what I'm doing and to feel like I know what I'm doing whenever I meet with a client. So I did do a lot. I did spend too much time learning in the beginning and not as much time doing. But I will say that I think that is, looking back now, that's probably one of my biggest mistakes, because while I don't think you should always necessarily, fake it till you make it and just say that you're a website developer and you've never touched a website. I don't advise doing that kind of thing. But I will say that most of everything that I have learned while working with a client. So you can't really learn how to do a sales page until you're in a sales page and working with it. And I mean, literally everything. And Lauren says it all the time. None of my clients know how to do anything. Literally everything is YouTubeable. Is that a word? Like just YouTube it. I mean, like just YouTube it. So I don't know. I really didn't know anything about websites. And now literally when I'm going and hooking up all the back end of a website, I'm like, how do you do this? And I type it in YouTube and it's like a step-by-step tutorial, walks you through how to do it. I mean, everything changes so fast that you will never be an expert at anything in this kind of a business. You know, I think if you just have your foundations laid and you know generally what's going on, what they're talking about, what the, you know, the purpose of whatever they're trying to do is, like you can learn and you can teach yourself. So that's how I've learned, is definitely on the spot with my clients training.
Cool. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about Stephanie starting out, and you kind of alluded to some of this stuff. You know, you worked on your website too long. You know that you were kind of hiding behind this wanting everything to be perfect. I want to know how we know a lot of the skills that you've learned. How have you changed just personally going through this process?
Yes, I tell my husband all the time, and like sometimes it makes me get a little teary eyed thinking about it. But you know, a year ago, I thought my life was great. I really can't look back and say like, oh, I was in, I wasn't depressed. I wasn't any of that kind of stuff. I had a great life. But within the last year, how much I have changed personally as a person, as a friend, as a wife, as a mom, I almost think that that's better than anything. Like I feel, I just things like, I mean, it's like I wake up and I'm not the most joyful. I'm not the most that's hard to say, but just every day, like I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. Like I've found so many like good friends and relationships and people that I've met with. And it's been a great learning experience too, which I think will help a lot of mamas that maybe stay-at-home moms or maybe have been out of the workplace for a little while. I'm a learner. I love to learn and I love the education and everything. So coming back to this, it's a little bit of like, having something for yourself again, and so that's what I've really loved. Like I wake up in the morning and 5 a.m. I am a early bird. 5 a.m. I literally like almost jump out of bed. I mean, I would wake up at 4 if I went to sleep earlier, but it's just like my favorite part of the day. And I've developed so many amazing routines that I never knew existed really before I met all these entrepreneurs that, what affirmations and doing, reading my devotionals in the morning and all that kind of stuff. So I've come 100% 180, and just the growth that I've seen in the perfectionist that I used to be. It's totally crazy. Cause literally I sent my kids to school this morning wearing PJs and it wasn't PJ day. And I was like, well, we're not turning around and going home. It's going to be just fine. And like a year ago, I was going back home. Like, I can't send my kid to school in PJs because it's not PJ day. Tomorrow's PJ day, not Thursday. Mommy mixed it up. And today I was like, have fun, dude. Like,
two in a row.
That's what I said. I was like, you get to wear PJs twice. So we did it.
That's awesome.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's actually surprising to me. That's really cool.
Yes.
We've been able to let go a little.
Yes.
That's good. That's awesome. That's hard to teach. That's a really personal thing. And that was one of the things, you would show up to those group coaching calls and every week I'm like, quit talking about it.
Oh, and it's funny because now I see the mamas now and I'm like, oh no, another Stephanie, like if I could go back now, I'm like, oh, Lauren's probably like, here, just let me pass you off to Stephanie.
You know what? I also love it because it was me. I was a perpetual learner for years, but it also means that, not to be like depressing, but I could be a year ahead in my life if I would have just let go a little bit earlier. And I'm glad that you had this community to not let you learn too long, because it's only been a little over a year and your ways have changed. So I'm glad we could at least speed up your process a little bit longer than mine.
Yes.
But you bring up a good point. If you could go back in time and you now, Stephanie, who sent your kids today to school in pajamas, not on pajama day, if you could go talk to Stephanie, who was just getting started on this journey, what is the advice that you would give to her?
I think, deciding what you want to do, not your niche or anything like that, but deciding like if this is your thing. So I know that a lot of the moms struggle with should I do this? Is this going to work for me? Like really like sitting down and seeing where you want to be. I've done a lot in the last year of personal development, like thinking about your goals, and it doesn't have to be exactly what you're doing for the day, that kind of thing, but think about where do you want to be in a year and where do you want to be in 5 years. And in the one thing, which I know that you've probably read,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he talks a lot about, people overestimate where they can be in a year, but they underestimate where they could be in 5 years. So, you always think, you're always worried. I used to worry about like today and like now, I mean, I think that the main thing I would tell is just to sometimes to let things go, just like today, what I did with my kid. I mean, the little things go, because a lot of that kind of stuff doesn't matter in the end. I mean, whether you're talking about your personal life kind of stuff or your business. And I know a lot of moms have struggled with, putting their business out there and getting feedback from other people and negativity and that kind of stuff. I was very lucky to not have that. I have a very supportive family, but even though I have a supportive family, I have a family that's, the traditional doctors and lawyers or, dentists or whatever, that they have the 9 to 5, career paths. And I mean, they're like, oh, you do what for who, this online thing. And I do get a little, is that a real thing? Or like, oh yeah, okay, she works from home, that kind of thing. But I think you just kind of have to let that go and look past that. People don't mean anything by it. They just don't understand it. And what they don't understand, they just don't. And you can't change the way they think about anything. And you just have to keep pushing through. One of the things I think that is so important is consistency. And so consistently doing whatever it is you do. And I think, I forget who I was listening to the other day, and that's what they said, like if you keep doing something every day or every week or every whatever, you will have a breakthrough at some point. So, I mean, and just like Lauren, I remember when Lauren used to show up to Facebook Lives, and I mean, now she's got hundreds of people every Facebook Live or whatever. We used to show up and she'd put out a video and there'd be like only me or like a few people on it. I mean, and hardly any there was hardly anybody when I started. And to see 13,000 people, or probably more now, I don't even remember what it was the other day, it's crazy. And, to see how many moms are doing this. And I think everyone gets a little bit of is this, are there already too many people doing this? And are there already too many, and I mean, and sometimes I always think that, but then just seeing, I mean, literally when you start getting in the Facebook groups and you start telling your friends and family and you start, like putting yourself out there, it's all the time. I need a person for this. I need a person for this. I need a person for this. So there's really so much opportunity, so I think just consistently being consistent in whatever you decide to do, as far as putting yourself out there.
Yeah, that's totally true. And it's an industry that's growing. I mean, there's statistics on freelancers and contract work because the desire for flexibility and remote opportunities is only growing. And so, yeah, nobody's behind here. Nobody's, it's not too late. It's not running out. The desire and the availability of the internet is only creating even more opportunity. So that's awesome. Well, you alluded a little bit to your morning routine, and I know you wake up early, and I've heard you talk about this a lot as I've gotten to know you over the last year or so. But what are some of your favorite resources when it comes to that time you spend in the morning or just your own personal development? And I know that you like this kind of stuff, so I think you'll have some really great insight.
I am like a personal development junkie. So
that's awesome. Books, podcasts, where do we all go?
Probably, I mean, I think there was a thread back in the day, but of all of the favorite ones, but it kind of depends like what mood I'm in and what I'm going for. But I will say that my podcast, I mean, I'm a podcast manager. I work with podcasters. So my podcast list on my
shout out your clients, baby. Let's hear it. Go for it.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, like Amy Porterfield's probably one of, like my favorite. And I love Rachel Hollis for that dose of like, both of her new, the Girl Stop Apologizing, Girl Wash Your Face. If you need a little bit of kick in the pants, she's a good kick in the pants, like to make you see that, she says when you started your business, she had a, what'd she say? a laptop and a phone, and really you don't even need a laptop. You can have a phone, and so you really have no excuse. You don't need a big MacBook desktop, beautiful, screen and all that, which back in the day I thought you did. But
Sure.
anyway, so yeah, let's see, podcasters. I love Jenna Kutcher. I've been a follower of her, Gold Digger, for a long time. And then recently I've gotten into a lot of Donald Miller, who wrote Story Brand. The One Thing is one of my favorites. Jen Sincero, which is a good one for a lot of mamas, is You Are a Badass and You're a Badass at Making Money, I think is one of hers. So those are some of, it kind of depends, like if I'm in that mood for a little bit of the You're a Badass, or if I'm in the, I love Laura Casey's one of my favorite too. She wrote Cultivate and Make It Happen. And those were two of my favorite books last year. They're a little bit more, kind of Christian. Yeah. Books.
Make It Happen. Okay.
The creator of the Power Sheets. I don't know if you've ever heard.
No, but I'm totally gonna go check it out.
I love the Power Sheets. Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell, I guess.
That's awesome. Okay, 2 more questions. If I can continue to pick your brain, I would love to know, what was your overall biggest takeaway from the Free Mama movement? Either the program, the community. What do you feel like has been your biggest takeaway from this whole thing?
Well, let's see, business wise, I think, and like Lauren does allude to, you can totally do this on your own. You can go out and Google and watch all kinds of everything. There is so much on the internet. The thing that Lauren's program does, which is good for especially someone who is like me, who loves to learn, I will Google and podcast and YouTube until I'm blue in the face. But having a program like Lauren's really makes you sit down and follow one path. And I think that that's a big thing to remember as you go through the journey. There will be a million different paths you can take. Some people say to do this, some people say to do this, some people say to do this. Like every person says something different. But what you need to do is find your few favorites that you really like, what they say, what they have to say, and what they do, and follow them. So I have found that even, I'm like, I pretty much unsubscribed from almost everybody at this point. Not everybody, but I only have like my top 5 people. And those are the only things that make it into my inbox now, because I don't have time to read all the fluff, So I think that as far as like the course goes, it shoots you in the right direction of like getting everything set up, because you will have so many questions. I mean, when you start I think it's module 3. Is it module 3, Lauren, where it's like the LLC, the getting like your business set up, that kind of a thing? That was like mind blowing to me. I mean, I would have never even thought about LLCs and creating all this kind of stuff. So I think it's once you get those processes and systems in place, that even though you haven't worked with clients yet, that gives you the confidence that you're set up and that you're ready, and you know how to work with a client. You know what a discovery call is, you know how it works, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really just an easier way to get where you're going without having to go in 50 million different directions and spend way too much time, trying to do it. I mean, what you can do in 12 weeks with Lauren's program, I mean, you could spend a year trying to piecemeal stuff together,
You gave really great advice in there, though, and that's pick a lane. Pick a lane. I have a course, and I'll be the first to tell you, there's not just one way to do something. There's lots of ways to do something. And I think the reason a lot of people never find success is because they're bouncing from lane to lane to lane. And that does not work. You need to pick a lane, like you said, find somebody who's accomplished what you're setting out to accomplish, and then just go, like, who's going to speak your language and whatever, and follow that lane. That's such good advice. And another way to like reframe that is like the shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
Like, and I know
I'm like the queen of that. Yes.
Yeah. And so
I think as an entrepreneur, you are a little bit, I mean, you have an idea and you're like, you're excited to try this and excited to try that, excited to try this, all that kind of stuff. And I've done, I have found myself doing that kind of a thing. But, one of the people that I follow, that's what she kind of says is like, what did she say? Getting on the other side of busy, and you're doing team too much is what she's like. You're on team too much. You're doing too many things. You don't need to. And for a lot of the mamas out there, like, Don't try to get on Facebook and Instagram and create a YouTube channel, create a, no. Pick your one thing that you like to do and start on that one thing. And once you've mastered that one thing, then you can do something else. But you're not going to master it for a long time. So don't even try to do everything all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's easy to look at, influencers or something like that, or even someone like me. And you're like, well, but she's on all the, no, I'm not. I have a team now. When it was me, I was hanging out in my Facebook group by myself.
Like Lauren, I mean, you've been doing it a year and just now starting the YouTube. You weren't doing YouTube a year ago. Yeah. Yeah. And you weren't even doing Instagram. Instagram's fairly new for you.
Yep. Yeah. Over the summer. Yeah. Yeah. And the only reason I'm able to do that now is with a team. So I think it's important when you're looking at people that you want to model, because I do think modeling is strategic and it's important, but you have to be mindful of where you're at and where they're at. And yeah, team too much. I love that.
Yeah. Whatever they say is like, don't look at other people's, your beginning is not the other. What is it the saying? You're looking at someone else's middle is your beginning or whatever, like you can't look at Lauren and say, why am I not doing what Lauren's doing? Like she was where we are a year ago, that kind of a thing. So
that's awesome. Okay. Let's wrap this up. I'm so grateful for your time, Stephanie. My last question to you is, what do you think is next for you? And I'm going to kind of put you on the spot because you said like your 1 year, your 5-year plan, that's something like you think about. What will you share with us? What's coming up for Stephanie?
Yeah, so I have done a lot of pivoting. I'm actually in the process right now. And you posted the other day, Lauren, about a client breakup letter. I'm about to break up with several of my clients. I think and that's a great thing because last year, at the end of last year, I had 9 clients that I was working with at one point. And talk about doing too much, okay? Doing too much. So I decided and let 2 of them go. 2 of the ones that, didn't align with, or it wasn't my favorite thing to do, or maybe, that kind of thing. Let them go. And I'm at the point now, I'm working with 7 right now, and I'm about to probably let some of them go too, just to free up enough time to be able to work with more podcasting clients and design clients, which is what I want to do, so that's kind of where I am now.
It's growing pains. It's beautiful.
Yes. I mean, ultimately, the goal is to work with fewer clients on higher retainers. So that's what I've been doing. And then 2 is, I started hourly, which Lauren says not to do, which I could give you a million reasons why not to do that. Why did I not?
It's a stepping stone. It's a step. In general, that is not the goal, but I wouldn't say blanket statement. I don't recommend it. There are situations where it's very appropriate when you have no idea how long certain things are going to take you to do.
Yes.
So
even now, there's a few that I probably will keep on for at least part of their business. But yes, because I have found that I have become much more efficient. And like with one of my podcast management clients, when I first started, things that used to take 2 or 3 hours, like now I pretty much batch in about an hour. And so that's wonderful for her. And it's terrible for me because now I make less. So she's getting set up on a retainer. But anyway, so that's kind of where I am. Within the next year, it's just wanting to have kind of niche down and, have more of an expertise in podcast management and design work and kind of specialize in that and not be the Jill of all trades. So I think just kind of not getting rid of my clients. I love my clients, but just kind of, moving more towards the right clients and my ideal clients and really niching down that way. And then, I'd love to just grow my name and brand as someone that is the go-to for podcast management or design work or whatever, so I think that's, what I'd like to do. And maybe one day, hiring a couple other free mamas to subcontract or whatever and, kind of do an agency model. So
yeah, and that's starting to happen in our community. I don't know if you've seen any of those posts, but we do have some free mamas already subcontracting, and I'm like, oh, and it's just to me, it's just proof that, like you were talking earlier with the opportunity, quite literally, the more successful each of us becomes, the more opportunities we then are able to go on and create for other people. So what's the saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. It's so true. And I'm really proud of our community for being a place that inspires and encourages each other, grows together, and then gives back to the newer people in the community.
Yes.
Stephanie, I'm so thankful that you were one of those people. You've been such an
Oh,
asset to
so fun. I
me
mean,
and to the group. Oh.
I tell me and Jordan that all the time. I'm like, oh, what would we do? What were we doing a year ago? Like how far like all of us have come, and like just it's so fun seeing the group. And I love trying to pop in there as much as I can and trying to, give feedback and that kind of thing. And it's kind of weird being on the other side where I'm like, oh no, girl, don't do that. Let me tell you how to do it. You feel like a veteran. I'm like, been there, done that, that thing.
The circle. It's the circle. So
Yes,
thank you.
but I love helping them. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for giving back both in the community and with your time today for jumping on this live. I know it was super helpful. I will send you a link to YouTube because you've got a whole chat that's been going on this entire time of people watching. Your girls were on here. Mia and Jordan were both watching you. And you've got a bunch of other free mamas on as well, giving you a shout out. So we'll make sure you can do that so you can go give them some love. But Stephanie, thank you. And I hope I get to see you soon. You're not that far.
We'll definitely see you in October. Going to Houston for the big meetup. That's the big meetup. So that's
the big meetup. More info to come.
Yes.
TBD. Or TBD. That's awesome. Stephanie, thank you. Free mamas, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope everybody has an awesome day. Bye.
Okay, bye, y'all.